Have you ever witnessed something inexplicable that when you tell it, nobody believes you? I bet on those occasions, you wished you had a camera in your hand so you could record it and show it as proof that what you saw was real. Well, believe me, that's actually much worse. A few weeks ago, I got a new job. I was happy because I would be paid much better and it was more suited to my skills. The only problem was that it was much farther from my house than the previous one. And furthermore, it finished in the afternoon when the sun was already beginning to hide. Since there were more benefits, I didn't pay much attention to this. After all, I don't mind driving on the highway at night. But my wife, Millie, who at that point was in her second trimester of pregnancy, was extremely concerned.
I don't know, honey. I don't like the idea.
In order to allay her fear, I installed a Dashcam in the car. Thus, the days passed without any problem. On Tuesday, during the second week of work, I finished a little later than usual, so it didn't take long for me to get a call from my wife.
Duncan, is everything all right?
Yeah, dear, I'm fine. I'm on my way.
Once I left the company, the night sky was already waiting for me. Carefree, I walked to my car, which was parked next to a lamppost. I wanted to get home as soon as I could, so I wouldn't make my dear wife nervous. Before I started driving, I turned on the necessary car lights for the night. Although the light coming from the shops and restaurants around the street was more than enough. But it didn't take me long to get away from that town. Little by little, the buildings around me were replaced by grass and trees. There was less and less light, although every certain distance, a lamppost illuminated the area. I had already been driving down that road the whole week before, so I had it relatively memorized. And besides, I knew it wasn't that frequented, so it was a surprise to see a car driving in front of me. The red lights of the vehicle helped me to detect how far away it was from me. That was how, all of a sudden, I could notice that it was stopping.
What?
As soon as I evaded the person, I braked my car. It was at that moment that I realized I was holding my breath.
What the?
My heart was beating very fast, and the many thoughts that were going through my head were making me dizzy. I couldn't drive the car like this. What had that been? Why was there a person in the middle of the street during the night? I had only seen him for a few seconds, but I was sure he had no arms and no face. To make sure I hadn't imagined it, I looked in the rearview mirror. Seeing that the man was still there, motionless, didn't calm me down. Even though I was really shocked, I decided to get out of the car. I mean, what if that guy needed help? What if he was drunk or high? Would I let him stay there at the risk of being run over by someone? I turned off my car, took out the keys, opened the door, and then closed it again after I got out. It could also be a joke or a way to try to rob me, so I didn't want to let my guard down. Little by little, I got closer to the man who was standing next to a lamppost, so I could see him relatively clearly. Even though I was looking at his back, I was still not sure if he had arms or not.
Hello?
I didn't receive any answer.
Are you okay, man? Do you need any help? Are you hurt? I have a cell phone here. I mean, you can call someone if you need...
This time, the person shook gently. I wasn't sure what that meant, but at least he was beginning to respond.
Listen, I don't usually do this, but I'm on my way home. It's not too far. I could take you somewhere if... Huh?
Some strange sounds began to be heard. It seemed as if the man wanted to speak, but he couldn't.
Hey, do you...
Suddenly, the man began to shake vigorously.
Hey!
It was then, after I screamed, that he turned around.
My God!
The instant I saw him, I felt as if my heart had stopped. A shiver ran down my spine, and I began to sweat. It was just as I had thought at first. The man had no face. The places where his eyebrows, nose, and lips should have been had strange scars, and of course, there were 2 holes through which he could breathe. It looked as if all that had been cut off and the skin had been burnt. He kept shaking and groaning, as if he wanted to do something to fix himself. But the man couldn't even touch anything, as he had no arms.
What the hell?
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even move. The man seemed very desperate. Suddenly, he started running in the direction of the forest.
Wait!
I tried to warn him that he would end up hitting a tree, but the man didn't stop until one of his shoulders touched the trunk of one of them. After emitting one of his strange groans again, he moved his head backwards and then thrust it forward forcefully. Some noisy banging began to be heard. The man was beating his face against the tree.
Stop it!
I didn't think he was going to listen to me, but in fact, he stopped and turned around. His burnt face was now full of bruises. The man started running into the forest, and soon his silhouette disappeared. Once he was gone, I was able to move again. This situation had disturbed me so much that I threw up on the grass and then returned to the car. I had several missed calls from my wife. When I got home, I told Millie everything that happened. I even showed her the dashcam footage. Still, my wife didn't believe me.
Honey, try to calm down, okay? You're home now. It was just a really bad joke.
As much as I wanted to think that was the case, I knew she was wrong. I knew what I had seen. Since then, I have not been able to sleep well, because every night I have nightmares in which this man without a face appears. I've even gotten to the point of obsessing over the situation. I've began to wonder who could have done such an atrocity to a human being. And besides, I've been looking at the missing persons list. But how could I find him if he didn't even have a face to identify? Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
It may seem a little strange, but one of my favorite hobbies is driving on the road. Many people are afraid of falling asleep or making long and tedious trips that would bother anyone, but that was not the case for me. I always found an enormous peace traveling alone on the road, a chance to find myself and feel a peace that in the hustle and bustle of the city is impossible to find. Even after that fateful day, I still enjoy traveling alone. The problem I had on that dark and cold March night was that I was unknowingly not alone. I remember how that day I was going to the beach to meet my nephews. I asked for a vacation from my job and went full speed ahead. The road was long and lonely, but it was nothing I hadn't done before. When I reached the dark road, I slowed down and just enjoyed the ride. But something interrupted my peace. As I was driving, a silhouette crossed my path and I had to dodge it, but I still felt like I hit something. I braked violently and my car almost went off the road, but I managed to control it and hold on. I looked out the window and there I saw it. A dead animal was lying on the side of the road. Aw, poor thing. I've always been an animal person and would never turn my back on a wounded one. But this deer-like animal was definitely dead. There was nothing I could have done about it. I restarted my car and went on my way. After I turned the car back on, something felt different. Not only did the car feel heavier, but I felt like something was bothering me. I had a bad feeling. I started thinking about the animal I had seen a few seconds before. I was sure I had dodged it. I mean, accidents happen. It wasn't the first time that had happened to me, but something was different. I never saw the animal hit the car, and the blow was not felt from the front. Besides, how did the animal end up on the side of the road? I had too many questions, and unfortunately, I was going to find the answers. I looked in the rearview mirror to make sure I was okay after the impact, and instead of seeing the mirror, I saw it. A face was peering out from above my roof. His piercing eyes were staring at me from above the roof, to which he was clinging with his huge, inhuman arms. Aware that I had spotted him, he didn't let me react and stretched his hand through my window, trying to attack me. I managed to dodge it, but my car spun out of control and ended up in the dirt on the side of the road. The creature flew into a bush in front of me, and I lost sight of it. Scared, I started the car again, and before backing up, I saw it again. In front of me, it moved from one bush to another in a strange, animalistic way, as if it were a spider. Anyone else would think I had just encountered a monster, but I remember from my medical school days seeing this type of person. His arms and legs were completely disproportionate to the rest of his body. He was extremely tall, and his hands looked huge. This person was a human being with Marfan syndrome. I started to back the car up to get out of there, but then I heard it again, the same thump I felt when I saw the dead animal. At that moment, I realized that that noise did not mean I had run over it. That animal had been there for a long time. The thump I heard was the sound of its killer climbing onto my roof. At full speed, I closed the driver's window just in time to prevent his hand from going back through the window. But even so, I didn't manage to break the rearview mirror on the way. Quickly, I looked at the passenger window. It was also open. I closed it and found him there, face to face, looking at me, separated by a window that 2 seconds before was open. We both held each other's gaze. He began to lick the window in my direction, filling it with saliva. Within seconds, he got upset and tried to bite it. After that, he paced the car from place to place before my bewildered eyes. I didn't know how to react. I knew I couldn't accelerate the car and leave until he got out of it. I might be facing a human, but he was totally insane. In the midst of my thoughts, this person started hitting the car from above wildly. I started it up again and tried to get back on the road, but the car stalled halfway. It seemed that the skidding from before and the pounding had taken an effect.
Come on, really? You're gonna fail me now?
At that moment, I thought I was going to die. This was supposed to be just a vacation trip where I was going to see my family, and now I was destined to die for no reason on an abandoned road at the hands of a psychiatrically unstable person. Suddenly, the rearview mirror inside the car gave me one more hope. In the distance, the lights of a car were shining and moving slowly. That was my only chance. Finding another car on the road was a great rarity. I tried to start the engine with all my might, and as the noise distracted my attacker, I opened the door and sped off as fast as I could. Halfway there, I turned around and saw him chasing me. He was no longer on all fours. He was standing on his 2 feet, and at great speed, he was chasing me, moving his arms up and down in a strange way. The man quickly caught up to me with inhuman speed and grabbed me by the hair, pulling me back. I fell to the ground, and my attacker tried to pull me by the hair to the deepest part of the path. But I grabbed a rock on the way and smashed it into his ankle. Groaning in pain, he let go of me, and just as the car was pulling up, I crossed the road and he stopped.
Hey, you okay, honey?
Please, I need help. Take me out of here now.
Wow, tough night, sweetheart.
Just drive, now.
Sure, hon. Did someone try to kidnap you or something?
Yes, please, just drive.
The man kept staring at me and asking me uncomfortable questions. He was clearly a pervert, but at this point, I was satisfied that he wasn't trying to kill me. The man dropped me off at the nearest town. The next day, I recounted that a mental patient attacked me, and when we went to get my car, it was destroyed. I rescued some of my belongings. I never knew about that maniac, but after researching the area, I found out that there was a mental asylum hidden on the outskirts of a nearby town. In the movies, mental patients escape when there are power outages or disturbances in the place, but real life is much more bitter. This asylum is usually the kind of place where you go in and don't come out. The poor living conditions and lack of concern for the patients who wander in and out of the place makes it a very dangerous establishment. I also learned that the families don't visit the patients and the staff constantly abuses them. This man who managed to escape and attacked me that night looked like a monster, an animal, a beast. The cruel truth is that he was nothing like that. Over time, I began to feel sorry for him, because just like me that day, he was nothing more than a victim.
I don't know how I'm still alive. I mean, it's all coming back to me now. How I didn't listen to my sister, even though she told me several times not to drive home that night. It was her birthday party, which unfortunately fell on a weekday. The next day was Wednesday, and I had a very important presentation at the office. So when Emily said,
"Why don't you crash right here? You can get up early and drive home tomorrow. It's not safe to drive through those woods so late, Peter."
You know I can't do that. I have to go home tonight. I have a big speech tomorrow, and I worked too hard for this presentation.
But it's 2:30 already. By the time you get to the Crooked Creek, it'll be the witching hour.
Witching hour? What era are you living in, Emily?
Look, Peter, I don't care what you think about me, but it's too risky. People have reported seeing weird things on that road.
Like what? Ghouls and demons? Ooh.
Joke all you want, but 3 people from our town have already gone missing while driving that road late at night. The cops couldn't even find their car. Some say Satanists perform a ritual in those woods at the witching hour. A farmer from the outskirts said that he saw a man crossing the road while wearing a deer head.
My God!
I got up, exhaling a sigh of disappointment, and said,
I live in the modern era, Emily, so no matter how many scary stories you narrate, I'm gonna drive myself home tonight. All your bullshit fear is making me more adamant to do this.
When Emily realized none of her superstitions will work, she gave up. I bid goodnight to everyone and grabbed my jacket to show myself out. Tomorrow is a big day, and that's all I need to focus on right now. Emily accompanied me to the door, and before I left, she kissed me on the cheek and said,
"No matter what you do or see, just don't get out of your car, okay?"
Come on, you...
Peter, I am done arguing with you. Just promise me you won't get out of the car no matter what. Swear to me.
Fine, I swear on you. Now, stop worrying so much. I'm gonna be just fine.
I gave her a warm hug and wished her a happy birthday one more time. She watched me drive away in my red Chevy. The roads were completely deserted. In this part of town, you will hardly find traffic after sunset. So in a way, I was glad that I would reach home without any hurdles. The moon was hiding in the clouds, and obviously, there were no streetlights. My car headlights were the only thing that were illuminating the way. All the creepy stories Emily told me didn't scare me then, but now, this dark, empty road started to spook me a bit. I rolled down the window and played some music to lighten up the mood. Everything was going fun until I reached the Crooked Creek. Having too many drinks and water later to sober myself up, I felt the urge to pee. I didn't want to stop earlier, thinking I would be able to manage, but it turned out to be an emergency. I stopped the car, got out, and walked to this nearby bush to lose some weight. I was doing my business when I heard a rustling sound, as if someone is running at me at full speed. Being scared, I turned around immediately. A shadowy figure moved on the other side of the road, and soon, a man dressed in a pretty weird manner surfaced from that darkness. He was standing on the opposite side, but the road was not too vast. I could see him quite clearly. The car headlights helped me to get a clear picture, even in that dark. Remember these characters? Thompson and Thompson from Adventures of Tintin? The man was dressed very similarly to that. He wore a black suit with a hat. On one hand, he had a briefcase. On the other hand, he had an umbrella. His face was pale and blank, like he only looked human, but was a completely different creature inside. I kid you not. In that scary ambiance, his sudden appearance gave me goosebumps. If I haven't peed earlier, I would have surely peed on myself. I didn't want to sound scared because I realized I am standing outside my car, which is a few feet away. Deciding not to do anything stupid at that point, I got my shit together. I called out to him.
Hello, mister. Do you need any help?
The man didn't say anything, just looked behind him, turning his head in slow motion like someone or something else was controlling him. He then slowly turned back at me and nodded his head from left to right, gesturing no. But he also didn't walk away. Without wasting any more time, I took a step to go to my car. That's when the man started to run at me at full speed.
Holy shit!
But I was quick, like a pro. Before he could get to me, I almost threw myself into the car and locked the door. He stopped right next to my window, and finally, I got a glimpse of his entire face. He had white paint smeared on his face. He had no eyebrows and blue, glassy eyes. I was panting in fear, not regretting my decision not to listen to Emily. The man watched me for a few moments and then looked ahead like something was out there, waiting. And that's when things changed into horror from just being creepy. The man started to run ahead of my car, and suddenly, another man dressed exactly like him came out of the dark and followed. I put my car into drive, and the two men ran even faster. What happened next will be forever stamped into my memory. The two black-suited men rushed to the other side of the road near a bush, and a group of freaky-looking men, all dressed the same way, came out. I realized it was a trap they all have set. The 7 to 8 black-suited men started to jump and howl, scaring the shit out of me. Right then, far away in that field, a red flare light lit up, spotting another man. And then, from the other side of the road, a tall man wearing a deer head with huge antlers walked right in front of my car to join that freaky group of men. While walking, he stared at me, and I felt they were all waiting for that one chance to get to me, which luckily, they didn't. As soon as the deer-headed man crossed the road, I hit hard on the accelerator and sped like a road runner. I only stopped when I reached home. I couldn't sleep the entire night and kept checking out from my window, fearing those black-suited men must have followed me home. I am glad they didn't. So, for a little suggestion, if you happen to drive by the Crooked Creek after dark, just don't get out of your car in the middle of the road. I don't know what those men were up to that night, but I do believe that they were there for a sacrifice to perform some scary ritual.